V has come too.
When I started this channel in January 2018, I had one rule for myself.
One rule. Everyone fights, no one quits. You don't do your job, I'll shoot you.
Wait, not like that. The rule was that no matter what happened, the point was to talk about games that I thought were interesting. Games and topics that I felt deserved a proper spotlight, but more importantly, I wanted to talk about games that didn't drain my soul to play, record, or to review. But today, I'm afraid that I have to break that rule. Ridge Racer Unbounded is a game. A racing game. But not just any racing game. Oh no, it's a Ridge Racer game. I've been playing Ridge Racer since I picked up Ridge Racer on the PSP when I was a kid back in 2005. I haven't played every single game in the series, but I've played enough to really know what it's all about. And Unbounded is very obviously different from the other games. It's not nearly as colorful and upbeat, there's barely any references to old Namco games, and there's no cute race queen to smile at you. But that's not really my issue, because I don't mind different. In fact, taking different approaches when dealing with decades-old series like this can be really interesting and sometimes desperately needed. But the new approach at the end of the day has to be good, and it just kinda isn't here in Unbounded. Unbounded was developed by Bugbear Entertainment, who made a name for themselves with physics-heavy derby racing games like the Flatout series and more recently, Wreckfest. The studio was never as big in the racing genre as some other European developers like Codemasters or Criterion or Evolution Studios, but I think they still managed to carve out a niche that most weren't able to fill. So you have a well-known racing game series being made by a different developer who's pretty experienced with making racing games. What went wrong? My biggest problem is that Unbounded is a Frankenstein's monster of multiple different racing games. It's got the name of Ridge Racer, but it mixes in stuff from Need for Speed, Split Second, and Burnout, while having absolutely none of the charm of either of those games. Unbounded copies, but it doesn't understand. It's like that kid from grade school who plagiarized his entire book report from SparkNotes, but starts panicking really hard when the teacher asks some difficult questions. If you don't play racing games, that comment won't make any sense to you at all. So I'm going to take some time to explain this in a very simple, easy to understand manner. Ridge Racer is about going fast and drifting hard in a car that looks like Pac-Man. In Unbounded, there is no Pac-Man. You go kinda fast, but the drifting sucks hard. Like, really hard. Even positive reviews for this game complain about the drifting. The game tells you to press B to hit the brakes to start a drift, and if you're like me, you'll probably try tapping the button instead, because, well, that's just how it goes in any other racing game. You tap the brakes, and then you drift. But no, when they say press, it means press it down, because otherwise your car will not react. But I feel the worst part is how difficult it is to get a clean drift. Cars that don't have maxed out drifting aren't even worth bothering with, because you'll just be spinning out all the time. And the few cars that do are still pretty difficult to control, so either way you're going to find yourself hitting walls a lot. At first I thought I just sucked at the game and didn't understand the mechanics, but even after watching other people on YouTube play the game, I saw that they were having the same issues with the drifting that I was. Unbounded's art style and graphics remind me a lot of Need for Speed Most Wanted 2005, mainly with how monochrome its color palette is. There's a lot of tracks drenched in either orange browns or dark blues, but nothing else in between. Need for Speed has never really had a consistent tone throughout the series, but out of all the arcade racers I've played, I always felt it was the most serious of them all. Unbounded tries to take a few pages out of the Need for Speed playbook, but I think it goes a little bit too far by not really having any self-awareness. And this really comes into play with the introduction video. Intros in previous Ridge Racer games were always flashy, upbeat, and exciting. Even Ridge Racer 5 had a lot of style to it despite its washed out look, like a lot of PS2 launch titles. But instead we get slightly animated still set to dramatic music and the narration of a mysterious woman who's important to the story. Somehow. The game very desperately wants you to take it seriously, portraying the racers as heroic rebels breaking down the facade of city society. And of course, the rebels want to achieve this by destroying everything. No, I'm not making this up, by the way. Just listen to the dialogue.
Streets below, to the quiet outskirts where the rest of society is left to linger as outcasts. It triumphs above all. There are many of us that strive to destroy the hollow foundations this city was built on. We are the Unbounded. We are lawless. The streets are ours. This is our city, and we thirst for the thrill of the ride.
But the biggest irony is that the setup doesn't really matter all that much in the long run because it's never really brought up outside of this. The rest of the game itself seems to pretty much ignore it until the very final cutscene where the mysterious woman pats you on the back for saving the city by reducing it to rubble. In contrast, Need for Speed, especially the entries from the early 2000s, had the same tone as the Fast and Furious movies. Serious enough to give the audience a reason to feel involved, but not enough that it's trying to justify or contextualize the mayhem for any deeper reason other than it just looks cool, and Unbounded fails on both fronts. Split Second was this really cool racing game from Disney and BlackRock Studios that about 6 people on the planet bought. You're a contestant in a high-stakes racing game show where you blow stuff up, not just to take out other racers, but to completely alter the track. Again, this is something that Unbounded tries to do, but it's very watered down. The destruction is there, but it's really all for show. You can burst through walls to make shortcuts, but shortcuts aren't really all that convenient. And the game is really annoying about these shortcuts too. Whereas in Split Second, you'll get a small little color-coded icon, Unbounded instead has giant banners telling you where the shortcut is. Like, the game is practically screaming, "Hey, come run into this wall here! Over here! Right here!" at you. It's absolutely annoying. Just like in Split Second, you also have the option of taking down your opponents by catching them in explosions. But in that game, timing explosions was a fine art. You couldn't just mash the A button whenever you got the chance. You had to be very, very strategic about it. Because if you weren't, it would either A, not work at all, or B, totally backfire. That element is gone here in Unbounded. The AI is dumb enough to always be clustered around you, so it's hard to not get kills that way, and if you don't, well, nothing really bad happens, you're not penalized. Just press A and forget your worries. Everyone's a winner here. Burnout doesn't need much of an introduction. You go really fast and you rack up your insurance premiums by crashing into a lot of things. Very easy to explain. Out of all the games that I've mentioned so far, Burnout was probably the biggest inspiration on Unbounded, and I think it's where a lot of its mechanics come from. But, as you'd probably guess, they're not all properly handled. Do you have any idea how easy it is to get boost in Burnout? It's very easy. In fact, almost everything you do in that game is bound to get you some of that sweet, sweet nitro. Do you know how easy it is to get boost, or rather, power in Unbounded? Not nearly as much. You might ask why that's such a big problem. After all, it does take time for you to generate nitro like in other Ridge Racer games. But unlike those games, it nearly isn't as essential as it is in Unbounded. Power isn't just a way to go faster, it's the only way to break through shortcuts and to take down other opponents. And you're going to have to do this frequently enough in order to rack up enough points to move on to the next event. Which brings me to the second problem. Unbounded does have takedowns, just like in Burnout, but they call them frags, and how they work is really, really busted. Imagine playing Mario Kart, but the only item is the star. Yeah, it sounds like a clusterfuck, doesn't it? Well, it is, because that's how Unbounded works. Like I said earlier, the only way to do the only way to do frags is if you have power and you press A. This puts you in a state of invincibility and lets you just tap people out of existence. That's really it. You just tap them and they're gone. And opponents can do this to you as well. I'm not really sure how to explain this, and I do apologize if it sounds very contradictory, but fragging is both too easy and, I guess, for lack of a better term, too tedious at the same time, and I don't really understand how. I say it's tedious because it takes ages to fill up the power bar, and it's too easy because pulling it off just requires very little skill. In contrast, you do takedowns whenever you want in Burnout, but you have to put in effort to do it. And you can also do it in a multitude of different ways, which is something that Unbounded doesn't even do. There's traffic just like in Burnout, but it doesn't really matter because there's really not a lot of traffic at all, and they're also not much of an obstacle like they are in Burnout. Your car can get damaged, but the game doesn't do a good enough job showing that until it's too late. And again, it doesn't really matter that much anyways, because when you total your car, you just respawn again like nothing happened. There's no penalties. I think you're starting to get the idea by now. The game just isn't great, and it's why a lot of the reviews from game sites kind of confuse me. There's some that say that this game is something that revolutionized the series or took it in a new direction, but it just didn't. It just took mechanics from other games and made them less fun. If it didn't have the Ridge Racer logo on it, it would have been totally forgotten and left rotting in Walmart bargain bins. And it kinda did anyways. I didn't even know this game existed until 2 years ago. Did you know that there was a free-to-play variant of this? Yeah, me neither. So, I couldn't bring myself to finish Unbounded, so you'll probably be noticing that I'm reusing footage. Should you play Unbounded? Not really. Yeah, you can probably get it for cheap during big sales, but why settle for a knockoff when you can get the real deal? Yeah, sure, it might be a few dollars more expensive, but you're paying for top quality. It's not the worst game I've ever played, but it felt kind of insulting. To myself, to the series, and even to the creators. Insulting because I know that it actually could have been really fun. It feels like a game that Bugbear made just to keep the lights on, and clearly lacks the same destructive, cartoonish charm that the Flatout series had. Like, Flatout has a mode where the objective is to see how high you can get your driver to fly up in the air. And almost immediately after Unbounded was released, development on their passion project Next Car Game, which what would eventually become Wreckfest, began. There hasn't been a single console or arcade Ridge Racer game since Unbounded, so the series has kind of been in stasis for a long time. That being said, Ace Combat, Tekken, and Soul Calibur are coming back in a really big way, so part of me really hopes that Namco decides to dig through their catalog and give the series a new lease on life. Well, it's been about 1 year since I began making videos, and I suppose that I'm long overdue for a channel update, and to talk to you all about what I plan to do for 2019. Well, for starters, I've gotten about 95 more subscribers since I began in January last year. It's a long ways off from being qualified for the Partners program, but you know, everybody's got to start somewhere, I suppose. I've gotten the most views on my first 2 videos, with things kind of trailing off after that. Part of this, I think, is not being able to keep up the momentum. When I started, I tried my best to stick to a 1 video per month schedule, but due to obligations with the university, I was only able to put out 7 episodes instead of the 12 like I wanted. And 2 of those 7 episodes were pretty much in 1 month, so I suppose it was really just 5 episodes per month. And it wasn't just university that I was dealing with, I was also juggling 2 jobs in 2 separate towns. While I never had shifts for both jobs on the same day, every day was still kind of pretty draining when I got home, and the only time I ever had to work on my videos was really on weekends when I actually had some more energy and focus and time, and if I didn't have to like do any homework, whatever. My Destiny video, for example, was something that I wanted to put out in October, but due to midterms and finals, some really tough projects that I had to get done, it did not get finished until December. But the good news is that my daily schedule has gotten way lighter in a way. For starters, I am leaving one of my 2 jobs to focus more time on the other, and more importantly, I've officially graduated from university, so yay me. With only one job to focus on, I have a lot more time and energy to put in more effort into my videos and hopefully try to get them out at a more consistent pace. So what can you expect in 2019? Well, honestly, I have no idea, but I do have some ideas. I've thought about revisiting and fleshing out some of the scripts of mine that I had written last year, but never got a chance to finish. I've also thought about saving up money for an Elgato, so I can actually do some more console games. I have a sizable library of console games that I would really like to cover. Mainly games from the last generation, that aren't really, easy to emulate on my PC. So I'd really love to, be able to get a capture card and, maybe do videos on, I don't know, like DJ Hero or something. That's a game I really love and would really love to talk about, but, no capture card. I don't even know if the damn controller still works. It's weird. I gotta check that. Gotta check that. But anyways, want to get a capture card. And I've even considered doing episodes on non-video game topics, maybe doing stuff that's, obviously, not video game related, stuff that's maybe about different TV shows, probably not anime. I don't really watch anime frequently enough to justify doing a video on the latest and greatest, the hottest new anime this season. I don't know if I'm doing that. So whatever. But yeah, those are ideas. There are a few videos this year that I do definitely want to cover, some topics that I do definitely want to cover. I'm not going to really say it at the moment. They're super secret, but, just keep your eyes out on that. And I think with more free time than I had before, I hope that it'll be a lot easier to try to stick to my 1 video per month goal. I really want to try and get out, 12 videos this year, maybe even a little more, God willing. So yeah, that's that. That's it for the channel. The small, tiny audience that I have, outside of, friends that I know, thanks for watching, thanks for sticking around, thanks for subscribing. Hopefully, I can grow this channel to be something bigger over time. When that happens, I don't know, but I do enjoy actually making videos, even if they don't get a ton of views. Just simply going through the process, writing them all out, recording them, editing the videos. It's it's a very, very nice hobby, and it is something that I would want to really keep doing for the foreseeable future, and growing it to a bigger audience. So I don't know how to really properly end this video, so here's this.